Welcome to SatoshiConomy, honest global crypto news and info, where the message is more important than the messenger. SatoshiConomy reveals a secret about money. What is money? Those are the things that I'm going to discuss, and I'm also going to stack the show notes with some really good information, a couple of videos that go into it more, better than I can, and for those of you who want to do a little bit more research to it, go for it there. And the reason why I'm going to be discussing this is because money as we know it is changing right in front of our eyes, and it's changing very dynamically and very, very quickly. No matter what you know or what you've heard or haven't heard, the reality is things are changing very, very much. And I want to be a voice in the wilderness, so to speak, just to encourage people and to challenge people and to remind people about what money is, because those of us who really know what it is stand to be some of the people on earth who really are the best stewards of it. We're to take care of it. Now, there is one of the most well-known phrases in history is money is the root of all evil. Well, that's a misquote. The quote is actually, the love of money is the root of all evil. And not that money isn't important, it's vastly important. I mean, there's some people who think that that money predates writing, because some of the earliest writings that have been found were ledgers, they were bookkeeping. But when money becomes the most important thing, when money becomes your God, then that's when all kinds of terrible things happen. I mean, look at the state of the global economy. They're actually using a Q now, quadrillion, to describe the amount of debt that is out there in this debt-based economy. There is so much debt that we don't even know how much there is. But that's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on what is money. Money is a linguistic expression of value. But when you look at the textbooks, the economic textbooks, three fundamentals that they describe is, if you're going to call something a money, it has to be it has to be stable, or be a store of value. It has to have a unit of account, and it has to have a medium of exchange. But as a abstract, as a linguistic expression of money, that is really the essence of what money is. It can be something that you can't see, touch, smell, or taste, or hear. For example, say you go to the tire store and grab 4 new tires, and the salesperson says, well, those are $600, and you hand over 6 C notes for that. That exchange happens because of an agreement between two people, and that exchange is a linguistic expression of agreement of value, and the two of you just decide on what you're going to use to execute that exchange. And so, in a very, very real way, discussing money as a linguistic expression of value is a secret, because there's not a lot of people who talk about it like that. But so I just wanted to touch on that, as that is really one thing that is very, very, very important. Now, you fast forward to say the 20th century, and previous to 1971. Money in the U.S., for example, was backed by gold. For every dollar, there was an equal amount stored up of gold somewhere. But in 1971, Richard Nixon infamously took the U.S. off of the gold standard. And so now, since then, the definition of what we have is actually fiat currency. It's not money. It's a fiat currency, which fiat means by decree. And as a matter of fact, globally, every single sovereign nation on earth now operates their economies through fiat currency. There may be 2 nations who don't. So these fiat currencies are backed by air. They're not backed by anything. So there's some really incredible things going on in the world. For example, there's down in Venezuela, we have Steve Honke is a extremely well-respected and experienced economist who has served to advise, I think, 7 or 8 nations. I believe he's a Venezuelan, but he estimates that the annual rate of inflation down in Venezuela is between 80,000% and 90,000% annually. The boulevard down there is literally windswept. It's a humanitarian tragedy. But one thing that has happened down there, there's a website, it's called Local Bitcoins, and anybody anywhere in the world can go to that website and pretty much put in your zip code or your locale, and you can potentially meet up with a human being who will, when you meet, they'll show you their QR code transferred to you Bitcoin in exchange for the fiat currency that you have. And that's what's been taking place down in Venezuela. Now, what would you feel like if you look around your country and 1 out of 10 of your countrymen and your friends is left because there's no opportunity? I mean, there's serious things going on there. There's difficulty with food and clothing and heat and even roofs and shoes. So with this competing currency that's known as Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, what this provides is a new and valid form of linguistic expression of value. It's a digital expression of value. But where does this value come? Where does it come from? It's coming from fiat currencies that are being funneled down into these markets. Presently, on May 10th, 2019, the Bitcoin is valued at over 100 billion. It is risen from about 5,800 to about 6,400 in about 72 hours. And with further implementation and further popularity and further use cases and the furtherance of the technology, it really girds up the value of this competing currency, and that's what we're seeing take place. No matter what you've seen or not seen or heard, it's extremely controversial because it's disruptive. It disrupts the financial system that's in place globally with the fiat currency system. And the mainstream, lamestream, fake stream, CNN, LSD media really talks it down and says it's a terrible thing. But what we've got to do is look past that controversy and find out what's really going on. And in the computer age, now we have that available to us. There's much more information that's available. And I just want to be, someone out here as a voice in the wilderness to share some of the things that are really going on. For example, I could name J.P. Morgan, Facebook, ICE, which is the Intercontinental Exchange. It owns the New York Stock Exchange. LTSE, that was born today or approved today. It's Silicon Valley Stock Exchange. It's called Long-Term Stock Exchange. I guess it's going to be headed up by a billionaire, Mark Andreessen, who very interestingly has many investments or has several investments in the blockchain and cryptocurrency niche. But that is going to be operable by November, I think. By the end of the year, they're going to be operating. But WeChat. But to back up a little bit, J.P. Morgan, that bank is the largest bank in America, and it provides services for, I think, 70 or maybe even 80% of all the Fortune 500 companies. We're not talking small time here, people. And they are implementing or have implemented a digital currency. I'm not going to call it a cryptocurrency, because it's a closed garden currency. It's a digital currency that they use just within their garden, but it is going to be utilized to transfer what Jamie Dimon says is trillions of dollars across borders. Facebook has put on David Marcus, who was a former Coinbase executive. Now he's helping Facebook to develop and design a digital currency. I won't call that one a cryptocurrency either, but this one by Facebook could potentially compete as a world reserve currency. I mean, Facebook has 2.2 billion subscribers, I believe. They also own WeChat, which has, I think, about 1.2 billion subscribers. So those together, we're looking at a potentiality of 3.5 billion subscribers, independent subscribers as a total. I wanted to mention a couple others, but I'm going to pass that up. There's a lot of big names going on. Oh, Fidelity, $7 trillion fund, which has announced that they are going to open up OTC trade, over-the-counter trading of Bitcoin, where their customers can participate, engage in the price action or price wagering on Bitcoin. That is something a little bit different than really owning Bitcoins per se, but it most definitely will affect the Bitcoin market and the cryptocurrency market because it will advance the popularity. It will very potentially increase some of the values. It'll create, it'll advance the price discovery of Bitcoin so that it'll increase the validity of what it is actually valued at. There's some of those things going on. One thing that I want to suggest to you is that Bitcoin, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Right now, I think it's at 17.8 million. It's going to be, 18 million very, very soon. But if you divide 20 million Bitcoin by approximately 7.5 billion people on the face of the earth, it means that if you divide it evenly to every man, woman, and child, each person would have 0.003 Bitcoin. Now, if someone has a quarter of a Bitcoin, they will be within the top 1% of all the people in the world. So this is something that's very, very interesting. Now, another dynamic is with Bitcoin closing in on a 6,500. When it approaches 250,000, now no one knows when that'll be. There's people who say it'll be a year, 2 years. It could be. Like I say, no one knows. Could be 5 years, could be 10 years. But when it approaches 250,000, with the fiat currencies funneling down into cryptocurrencies, that's what dynamically gives it more value. That's where that value comes from. So in other words, the fiat currencies, there will be less of them, so to speak. And when Bitcoin will be valued at 250,000 per, it could very, very much so be regarded theoretically as a world reserve currency where people come into exchanges and then with fiat currencies or Bitcoin, and then exchange out into their respective nations' currencies with Bitcoin and or fiat currencies, what have you. But as I mentioned, the world as we know it, the economics are changing very, very swiftly, and those of us who know what money is really stand to be the best stewards of it. So if you like what you've heard, gain some value, you have the power to be able to spread the word by choosing to like and share. So for those of you who do that, I'll greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I just want to encourage you to be a great steward of your money. And until next time, peace.